All right. Thank you for your patience. I was
seriously. I mean, if we're being honest, most people probably woke up today and couldn't wait to turn on Spotify and see if we had uploaded a podcast. I'm sure that's what everyone was on their edge of their seats for overnight. Don't worry, we're back. We just had other things we had to take care of yesterday, and so we appreciate you sticking with us. It's November 6th. It's a Wednesday. The year, it's 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody. You listen to the Crushing Iron podcast, and this is episode 811.
Yeah. I mean, this podcast could, sink away into the ether like nobody could, or it could be whatever his needs, Could be what the remedy.
It's Coach Jeremy Shear's birthday, Ryan Seabanek, it's his birthday. I'm like, man, way to get totally buzzkilled on your birthday. No one's ever gonna it's kind of like having your birthday on Christmas. But you've only got to deal with it every 4 years, so it's it's like having a birthday. I guess it's someone having a birthday in a leap year. But yeah, hopefully this podcast can give you a little bit of light in your day, a little bit of smoothness. But yeah, no, we got a pretty solid topic today. Busy last weekend. Hit Ironman Florida. I don't want to say unseasonably warm because it's Florida, but it was pretty hot. I mean, I had a bunch of athletes down there racing, and it was we had hockey practice that morning. Then I got home and did a few other things, and I was tracking all day. I didn't even consider checking the weather. And around noon, Coach Glenn Robecki, travel services extraordinaire, race entry extraordinaire, texted me, and I looked at them. I was like, man, they look hot. So I pulled up Wonderground. It was 85 on the bike, and I was like, oh my God, that's a little steamy. Even for Florida in November, it was a little bit steamy, which made sense because it was mid 70s, low 80s here on that Sunday. It was kind of humid, but yeah, busy weekend. We're hitting the end of the season here. You got Arizona coming up. You still got, I think, Indian Wells first week of December. You got 70.3 World Championships. Kona is gone. Nice is gone. You got Arizona coming up, Cozumel, but then it's just kind of we're getting to that point, right, where people are already in the off-season mode. People are finishing out their race. They're not in necessarily it's weird this is a coach. You've got, you click it and you click open one Training Peak and athlete, and they're just check back with me in January. I'm taking some time off. I need to decompress. And then you open up the next one. This person's like, all right, I'm ready to talk about late 2025, early 2026. What's the plan? I got all these things I want to do. How do we get better? It's just a really interesting time, as a coach, with people still racing, having their big races of the year. And then athletes who are shutting it down. And then some that are already hey, when is it too early to talk about next year? And it's kind of weird, the fact that next year isn't that far away on the calendar. But the topic, hopefully a timely one. I was joking before the podcast. I listened to your boy Cam Wurf, who you picked on your podium. He didn't make it, but he had I think arguably his best result in Kona, over 40. The father. I listened to. I've become very interested in just how he operates, because if you're not familiar with him, and I think a lot of triathletes are, but if you don't follow the professional ranks, you probably don't know who he is. I mean, he races not a lot. He races some. He places really well in Ironman. He doesn't do that well in 70.3s. I don't even know the last time he's done a few 70.3s. And then you see him, and he's also, so his story is he was an Olympic medalist in rowing, and then picked up cycling and triathlon, and he also has a contract with Team Ineos, I think, in professional cycling. Excuse me, professional cycling. I think it was last year maybe. He was seen leading out on the front of the pack on the cobbles, and you look at a guy like that who can go back and forth. And he, I think one of the funniest stories last year was he did this race in one of the Grand Tours, maybe the Tour of Flanders, I think. And he did the stage, and then he hopped off and ran a marathon for his brick run. And, all the other guys are probably in the team bus, and they're their high-priced recovery boots, getting massages. And he's out doing a run. And then he shows up and does I mean, definitely his best performance in Kona, over 40, seventh with an incredible time. And then I think this last week, and no, I don't think this last week he did the New York Marathon. And so I listened to his podcast with Rich Roll, and when he got into the sport, I wasn't always a huge fan of him. I mean, honestly, really for no good reason. But the more I've kind of followed his journey, again, he's married, he's got kids. I don't know of anyone that has more fun with endurance sports than him. And a few things I find just fascinating about it is, one, his age. Being over 40, still getting better, still getting faster, still seeing and feeling like he's got like more on the table, that he's got, and I think he would even probably admit this, like he didn't say this in his interview, but he kind of has this like naive confidence that even at like 40 or even like 43, 44, 45, like he can do some pretty incredible things. And he seems like this guy that doesn't say no to anything. And if it excites him, he signs up and does it, like just to do it. And I think he probably, of all the professionals out there, and I think it's such a stark contrast between, a lot of the other professional triathletes that age groupers idolize and just can't get enough of and try to emulate. Like, I'm not trying to pick on Lionel Sanders, but it's a constant YouTube content and constant changing of this and is very specific and doesn't want to fail and this, and you got, that's who age groups like idolize, right? It's just his transparency but I also think his level of seriousness is over the top for most age groupers. And you look at a guy like, Cam Wurf, who actually placed decent in the Ironman World Championships, and the broad range of things that he does, that's the kind of person that age groupers should be, again, not idolizing, but being like, you know what, if that guy as a professional can be so not that he's not serious, but so laid back in his approach to saying yes to everything, why am I, as an age grouper who doesn't make any money off this, I actually spend money to do this, and this is mainly for my competitive nature, to get better, to stay healthy, and to kind of like have a why and a goal. Why am I saying no to so many things? When a guy like that, who, as a professional, right, you want to rack up as many wins as possible. You don't sign, most professionals, they don't sign up for races to get 7th and 20th and 4th. And I think I heard on the episode, he didn't get a call up to go race this Grand Tour event. And so he was like, yeah, so 2 days later, I decided to sign up for Ironman. It was either Copenhagen or Frankfurt on a 2 days notice. And so you've got guys like that, on a 2 days notice, and the other guys who, if that came up, they wouldn't dare do it because they would be afraid of what might happen. They might have a terrible race, or they're not prepared, or they can't win. He just seemed, again, like I know I've said this like 4 times, but the guy seems like he has so much fun with whatever he does. He loves the process. He loves the grind. He loves, the long days. He loves the short days. And he's in it. When I say he's in it to win it, I don't mean every race. I mean, when I say he's in it to win it, he's trying to win the longevity piece of it. And a guy that's been doing it as long as he's been doing it's like decades and across different sports, which again, I think is such a highlight that age groupers, myself included, should pay attention to, is this overwhelming fear that so many age groupers have when they want to or feel pulled to step away from a specific piece of triathlon and the swim, bike, run, grind, and just go into cycling or just go into swimming and just go into running. They get this like total paranoia and paralysis that they can't ever come back to the sport, and they're just totally giving it up, and that they're going to lose so much of their fitness. And he's proof that that's just not the case. And so I think as we kind of go into the off season, quote unquote, and you're looking at, things to plan out and things to do, I think this is like that year where, and no one's more of a fan of the word no than me. I think it's the most underused word in the English language. But in a year when it comes to like racing and experimenting and doing fun, adventure things and testing yourself, I think it's not just because it's this year, but I mean, I think there's no better time to say yes and to try different things. And again, this, and you and I talk about this a ton, and this is kind of one of the reasons the podcast even started, is that, we should be on an endless journey to figure out our limits within endurance sports as humans, not just within triathlon, but experience life through the expression of endurance, whether it's an Ironman, whether it's a sprint triathlon, whether it's a 5K, whether it's a 100-mile ultra, whether it's a long swim. Exploring your life and your boundaries and what you're capable of mentally, emotionally, physically, like that's why we're in this, right? Is to do that. And the more opportunities you have to do that, I think the better.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I mean, sometimes I don't even know. Like I picked Cam Wurf for a reason, to have a day out at Kona, but I can't remember exactly why. It was just sort of a gut instinct I got from reading a few things or whatever. But yeah, I've always liked him too. I think I actually kind of, that interview you watched, I think was older, or did he have a new version? Cause I've seen one with him, and I definitely.
Yeah, he's done two with Rich Roll. One was a while back. And this last one was, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks out from Kona. And I think the coolest thing about it was, I guess Rich reached out to him, and he just happened to be training like close by. And I'm sure Rich Roll like does his like podcast guests like 2 months in advance. And I get this, I think pretty much sums up Cam Wurf. He was like, "Hey, I'm free today. I can just come up there."
Yeah.
And he just came up like on the spot, like within like a few hours.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's cool, man. And he, so yeah, I really loved that approach that he has. And, it's funny because, like I said, I wasn't really sure exactly, but I just had a feeling. And, it's funny because we also got kind of, a little jab in our Facebook group for not picking Patrick Lang, and, or not even really going after, but it's like, how do you, I don't know. It's funny, but like, I'm always emailing my athletes, like our weekly email, and talking about fun and how do you keep fun in the game and how do you keep going for it. I think it's amazing that when you're feeling good and you're having fun, you can do so much more than you think a lot of times. And that, it's funny how we talk about, quitting things, making our life better by giving stuff up. And I think that that's a great thing. And I actually have an announcement here. I decided today to start giving up reading for a while. I'm not going to read anymore.
No reading?
Yeah. I mean, unless it's absolutely essential, like for work or something, but I'm not going to seek out things to read. And I know that's counterintuitive to life, probably, because that's what we're taught. You got to read.
Is that like reading books, or like even reading anything on the internet?
Anything on the internet, no books, no nothing.
I'm in on this.
I decided that I'm tired of one-way communication. So anyway, the point being is, like, you think about it like that, and even, frankly, I might drop out of podcasts a little bit more, because it's interesting when you think about it in terms of, because I've been doing a lot of these different types of workouts and train. I'm trying to find that fun and the, little things that sort of, after 10 years of racing Ironman, I just, even for the last few years, I felt like I need to get back to my baseline somehow, my balance stuff. Cause you can keep jamming it down the road and keep doing it and shit like that. But I'm just I hadn't been feeling like it felt right. And I want to kind of find this like overall balance piece to my life and my body and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I was thinking about giving up that reading stuff, and just whenever I have that thought, and this is how I like to do stuff. It's weird, but if I think, man, I'm just going to sit down and read, or I'm going to go read some shit on the internet or or just look around, then I have a fallback, which is, no, I'm going to go down and walk on the treadmill or sit on that rower or do some stuff, just fill that void with, something positive, because it does seem like the more I do sometimes, obviously the more you can do. And if you talk about what endurance really is, and I just think, there's an endless well of energy that we're letting go somewhere else. And if you can focus it on, your body and training and stuff like that. Or even like, I was thinking, well, instead of reading, maybe I'll just meditate and clear my head rather than put more garbage into it. Not that everything's garbage, you know what I mean? But it's a interesting thing. I went to see, the other day, I went down to something, my old favorite Uncle Kenny. He's 99 now, and his birthday's January 11th. He's going to be 100. So, it's just...
Damn, he should write a book, man. He's doing something right.
I know. He's so funny though. He's all. He tells me it's all about the ladies.
At 100,
yeah.
It's all about the ladies. I love it.
I love it here. He's in a assisted living, and you got the nurses coming in. Mike, I'm in just heaven, or whatever. But anyway, I said, well, how did you do it, man? How'd you, you're sharp as a tack. How'd you get to 100? He goes, well, I decided at a point I was going to clean up my life. I said, all right. He goes, you need to clean yours up too. I said, what? I don't know.
He called you out?
Well, he's always screwing that. So I asked him, I go, what do you mean by cleaning up your life? What were you doing? He goes, well, Michael, we're not going to go there. But anyway, so that's just kind of where my head's been lately too. And I think it sort of goes into this Cam Wurf thing a little bit. And it's interesting. You ever heard of Cameron Haynes? Cam Haynes is kind of the same way. He's the guy that he's Rogan's buddy, but he's a hunter and a runner. He's an ultra runner.
Yes.
And you've heard of him?
I've heard of him.
He's the guy Goggins will go. He'll just show up at Goggins' house or vice versa, and they'll just say, "Hey, let's go for a run." And they know in their mind that it's going to be like 25 miles or something, and they're going to push each other and then they go lift together, and they just try to crush each other just for fun.
And it sounds like they bro it out. Sounds like.
But he does all kinds of different shit. Whether it's hunting or bow hunting or running, and I think he does anything. He's just game.
Yeah.
I'm just game, man.
See, I love that. And again, like you, that's a great, like, different style of story, but the same mentality as a guy like Cam. The dude's always game. Always. Like there is like, and listen, I get this way too as a coach, because, our number one job, right, is to not push athletes, but usually protect athletes from themselves.
Yeah.
Right. They want to run too hard. They want to bike too hard. Everything I want to do is hard. And it's always the more I can do, harder I can do all the time, as much as possible. So like our first like initial nature with athletes is to protect. I know I'm like that. And it's funny. I was actually having this conversation. Jason Romali, he was in town for work, and he and I met yesterday for coffee and chatted for about an hour, and we've got a lot of our athletes starting our run program in the off season, and I changed up a little bit this year and kind of gave the athletes the ability to do a 1 mile, a 5K, or a 10K time trial to get paces in zones based on, there's a different fitness level to all three of those, right? 1 mile to 10K. And there's also a very different pain level from 1 mile to 10K. And it was interesting watching the people who picked the 1 mile every single one of them said it was the most painful thing they've ever done. Mm-hmm. Even though it's shorter, it's more painful than a 5K or 10K, which it usually is, because you're by by 80% of the way, like 8/10 of a mile, you're roasted, and you're just in excruciating pain. You're still trying to squeeze every ounce of speed out of your body. And I was telling him, I said, it's been a great lesson for me reading through all the comments from this last weekend, and also the confidence it's given some athletes to even see that you can do a certain speed for just a mile is a huge confidence booster. And it also is an opportunity to break through pain barriers. And that is something, I told him this yesterday, I said, that's something I need to do better at as a coach. And again, I'm not going to have like this eternal green light for pain, but is to interweave maybe and, periodically offer these opportunities to go out and just test yourself. over, because, for some of us, like testing, like a test for me would be a 1 mile all out. A test for me would not be a 1 hour like hard, because that's my sweet spot, steady Eddie. But a 1 mile all out, if we look at the percentage, like where you hit a mile and you're ready to give up, like that percentage for me is a lot earlier than the percentage of me that's saying, hey, let's tone it down some on an hour, because my my pain threshold is different. What I find hard in one part of endurance sports is, 1 mile all out isn't technically an endurance sport, but it's still, it's still a sport. And it's still part of running, and who we are is like that. To me, it was like, no, I don't want any part of that. I'll pass. I'd rather do a 20-minute time, like a 20-minute effort on the bike, than I would a 5-minute all out. And some people are the opposite. They'd rather go hard and quick, and they can't do it. So I think it's a good opportunity, and we should implement more of these. And again, I know I can do better as a coach, is like providing these opportunities to explore the mind and the pain and how we have those conversations. And I think the more we do those, the more we can find ourselves. And it's very similar to like, hey, knock on the door, I ran over here, let's just go run. It's gonna be 25 miles, right? You're always saying yes. You're always saying game, right? I'm game. And it's gonna be what's kind of like, run camp for us, but to have that mentality and to not fear, which, I think most, that's going to mess up my training cycle. I really can't do, that's going to mess things up. That's going to really not flow within my week. Then we say no to so many things. And again, like that's not why we're doing this. We do this for the most part, and we should, to be in good enough shape to where we can always say yes. Because if you want someone to ask you like, hey, can you want to do this with me? You want to be able to say yes, because you have that kind of fitness level. You are well-rounded. You're a well-rounded endurance machine. And that is what, like, life's experiences should always trump single ordinary events. And and this isn't the perfect analogy, but one of our guys that did Kona this 2 weeks ago sent me kind of a race debrief and went through the whole thing. And he said, of the whole week and the whole experience, the one thing that sticks out to me the most, this is a guy that's been training for Kona and lifelong dream as a triathlete. And he said, the thing that stuck out with me the most, and remember, they'll take with me forever. And I'm like, all right, I'm waiting for the finish line, or seeing, the pros, or, getting the lei around your neck. And he was like, it was sitting on the beach watching my 2 young daughters learn how to surf. He's like, that is what I'm going to take with me from this trip as the memory that I'll look. And they really resonated with me in how swept up we get with what we do as a hobby, and how the serious nature in which we can probably take it to, and where its place is in the hierarchy of importance in our life. And that can go, again, like when you look at the hierarchy of training and racing and experiences and experimenting, do we have, where in our hierarchy pyramid, right, of physical activity and how we're looking at the year, like where do we have experiences in there? Or do we have experiences below races when we're only going to have, 2, 3, 4 of them a year, maybe, to like really, really, really go after it? Or do we have experiences above that? And we want this, experiences to us are way more important. And I think the cool thing is you can have both. And I think a lot of times people, had this conversation yesterday with a friend, and I said, it would really suck to be just mediocre at all these things and not great at just a few. And I think that's what happens sometimes when athletes get so paranoid about not doing things because it might interfere. A race might interfere with an experience, or an experience might interfere with a race or with training, right? And so they just kind of like go through it all, and none of them really give them any joy, any value, right? And I think we're the best team. Honestly, I think we're the best team races we've ever done has been that Lookout Mountain Trail race we did like the week before Christmas when we were both living in Chattanooga. Everybody had, because there was no race. It was a huge, long experience. You were, in the lead overall for a while till you got lost.
Oh, that was that one?
Some people legit got lost, and couldn't like get back on course. But it was the experience, and it was doing it with other people. And I think as we like continue to come out of, a period in life where, people are more concerned about doing everything alone, staying at home alone, working at home alone, ordering groceries delivered to your house, training in your basement alone. Like I'm personally seeing like a huge difference in like people that want to go out and do things around people. And that is what people are looking for now instead of the opposite. And I think that's where experiences come. And we have athletes all the time, right? For both of us, it'll tell us like, hey, like the only events I want to do are team events because they want to be around people. Mm-hmm. They don't care if it fits in the schedule, right? They don't care if they're going to be able to peak for it. They just want to be able to go and do these things that we do that improve our life around the people that we care about, the people that we love, and the people that support us. So when you think about that and you think about what we say no to and what we say yes to and those opportunities, I think, as you're looking at your year of 2025, and I even had an athlete honestly tell me this, and again, this is the cautious nature, I think, of being a coach and having to kind of work through that is an athlete who just did Ironman Florida is like, hey, I signed up for, a 50K a couple weeks later. And I'm like, dude, why? Right? I'm like, dude, why? Because my first thought is like, maybe you're going to have a stress fracture, then you're going to be hurt, then you're not going to be able to like, do your workouts, and they're going to be upset. And he just said, this isn't like exact quote, but he's like, I've only got one life and one body. I'm here to do it all until I'm done.
Yeah. Some people.
And I was like, and that just really resonated with me. And it's such a, does it make it really fucking hard to coach? Yes, it does. Because you have to be really careful with the training. And it puts a lot of pressure on you, but at the same time, it's something that I really, really appreciate at a deep level, because I know that I've rarely ever had that kind of outlook. And so to have that kind of fresh outlook on, I might not be able to do some things perfectly or, all things perfectly, but I can do a whole lot of things, and I can have, more fun doing it. So it's kind of more like the sum of the parts of what you do than just the one or two pieces that we focus on and obsess on and frankly just, give up and don't do. And so I think it's, I think, his Cam Wurf's approach, the guy you're talking about, like that, and that to me, that is fitness that transcends sport and elevates overall health. I don't know where I heard this phrase, but it stuck with me listening to a podcast. And it was, your health is your wealth. And that hit me. I'm sure everybody's heard of that before, but I was like, that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, that is like in a world where, we get lost in so many things, like the ability to be able to do things and be healthy, to live long, to go out and do things, like that is true wealth. And so what we do with our bodies and through sport, and the truth of the matter is too, is like, we don't know how long we're going to be this wealthy, right? When it comes to our health, period of our lives where you're 20, 40, 80, 60, whatever it is with the body you've got while we're doing the sport of triathlon or endurance sports, like you don't really know how long you're going to have this for. And so to not use it and to not spend it, it's kind of like the same, analogy as that book I talked about a few months ago called Die with Nothing. Mm-hmm. Instead of dying with all this money saved up that you can give the no one that they get after you're dead, is to spend it all and give it all and use it all and have these great experiences. And I think we should do the same with our bodies. And I think that's something that we don't do, because honestly, like we look around us and we see so many people that that don't want to get off the couch and don't want to go take a walk or can't throw football with their kids or play sports, or they get winded walking up the stairs in the bleachers. And like you're surrounded more by can'ts than you are cans. And I think that does impact us to an extent in just, being around that. But again, like the team races or camps, like when you're around people like that and you're infected by the cans and the like, yeah, we got this one body and it's in close to our prime, or it's in the most prime it's been in, like, let's fucking use it and do some fun things with it. And I think that's something that I think everybody can explore more.
Yeah, man, we get into this. I think sometimes I do it a lot too, where I'm like, I'm not ready yet, or I don't feel that great or whatever. But it's all about sort of just changing the state of how you feel or in your mind a lot of times. And, we can go down. I think a lot of it is in a weird, I've just sort of thought about this, but I think a lot of our inability to kind of get moving is kind of crystallized in guilt, where, for example, maybe we haven't been eating that great or whatever for a couple of days, like I just did, and then I went. I always go, I wake up and I'm like, damn it, I knew I shouldn't have done. I don't feel, now see, I can't do what I was going to do, blah, blah, blah. But then what I like to do is go into some heavy, deep breathing and kind of change the state of my mind by getting oxygen going and moving around a little bit. And then you can kind of change. I just think because to me is always a pivotal point, a lot of time, because obviously we deal with tons of athletes and you hear the old, I feel a cold coming on or something like that. And then, it's like, shit, well, try to, do what you can to get out of it. And I just think that a lot of times that can be, just eating like shit for whatever, going out too late and you feel bad. But our bodies are so resilient. And I think that there's something to be said for this idea of kind of just letting your body take care of it, so get moving and get out there and move. Like it's funny, we have these, I'm starting to see more of these 50K, 100K kind of drop-ins too, It's like, where'd this come from? Well, I just had it, and I think it is great because, we're coaching people, but they're also individuals and they know what their body wants and can handle, or at least they want to give it a shot. And I think that's great. I just had my boy Bill Calkins just did that 100K, and we had talked about him on a Q&A, I think, but, he had that philosophy, he just likes to keep going. And we were doing a lot of running, but then, he was on the freedom, I guess, to, hit the elliptical or, go for a swim or whatever. And he was just paying really good attention to what his legs were telling him. And he just, likes to keep moving. And I think that's such a huge piece of that puzzle, is that let's just go do something. And it doesn't always have to just be like running for 3 hours or something like that. We can mix it up and build some great fitness. He had a really good race, his first one. And so that kind of stuff. And I did want to go circle back into what you're saying about that mile or 5K and the 10K, like sprinting, and how you mentioned sometimes it's nice it's a confidence booster because you see that, hey, I do have some speed or whatever like that. And I'm personally always the opposite, because I always feel like I know that whether it's in strides or screwing around with like a mini Moneghetti or something like that. And I kind of look down, I'm like, okay, I still have some speed. It's just a matter of for me, it's more about just kind of chilling and building time to hold that speed. And we've talked about that a million times, but that's always my challenge. So I'm really in this really interesting spot with, I guess it's zone 1, zone 2 right now, where I'm kind of allowing my body to just kind of feel good and go through these. And as you said, make different things fun, but they can be kind of easy. And what I've really appreciated lately a lot is this sort of like, this doesn't feel like it's doing anything. But then over the course of 5, 10, 15 minutes is walking incline or doing the rower or weight vest type stuff or whatever. And 5, 10 minutes into it, you start to feel yourself slowly sweating. And it's just, you can feel the body just kind of starting to go, okay, let's get this going here. And I think that for me is the zone that I really need to hit more. And, cause you're talking about endurance sports and building confidence. And I don't know, like I have a sort of a loose just based on my experience because I'm really more about Ironman. I'm always interested in that puzzle and figuring out that long thing because it's so much more layered and challenging to me. So that's why I like the long course. But I know if I can get to the point where I'm running enough and feeling comfortable enough where I can do, like say a comfortable 8:30 pace, to me that usually translates into, all right, that's going to be a decent Ironman run. But I haven't really gotten there in the last several years because I don't think I run enough or whatever. But I'm always working on building this almost like a patience with stuff. And that's why I like this idea of if I'm not going to read something, like sitting in meditation, or that's why I like yoga too, because you get into a pose and it can be not painful, but very difficult. And there's a saying in yoga, it's just like, stay there, just stay and breathe. And those are the types of things I like to connect to my brain, because it really, to me, is a direct correlation to, that little bit of an uncomfortable zone 2, it's uncomfortable, but it's doable, and those are the places that I'm trying to get with a lot of this kind of stuff. And it is fascinating, man. It's just like, there's so many interesting ways to go about all this stuff. And it can be, just playing different sports or doing different little challenges with yourself. And that's what I always encourage everybody, is just to kind of create a little game with even the simplest of workouts. Just test stuff, because as I get older, I'm thinking like Cam Wurf, it's about endurance. It's about longevity. And I like to really think about, sometimes if I train a lot too much doing the wrong stuff, and it's probably good for Ironman training, but I feel a little brittle, I don't like that feeling. So I like stuff like balance, because as I get older, I always hear that that's the thing, right? You want to keep your balance, and you want to be strong enough to hold the balance. And those are the little things that I personally like to incorporate, because I think they all pay off. And frankly, they just make you feel better, So yeah, I'm game for anything, man, almost.
Yeah, and I love what you said about the about like the zone 2 focus, and I think like the different. I mean, I think that why I love endurance sports so much is that there's so many different. I think we oftentimes only focus on like the different sports in triathlon, and like, you can swim, you can bike, you can run, but like in endurance sports, there's so many areas in just from like from a time standpoint and an effort standpoint where you can explore and challenge yourself to grow with different levels of pain and comfort, right? And you've got the pain and discomfort of a 1 mile TT. And then you've got the focus in restraint, yet steady pressure and kind of annoyingly, kind of the tattoo, kind of like low zone 3, high zone 2, where you got to stay focused and stay dialed in. You can do it forever and it's not painful. You just have to like keep doing it. That's a whole different level of pain and enduring, and the lessons that we can learn throughout all of those. And I think the more, and I think also like one of the biggest things is just listening to your body and like, what does it need today? Does it need, this like slight shift in one of my workouts last week. I can't remember what day it was, but I was supposed to go out for like 5 1-minute, like all out intervals uphill. And I got to the bottom hill and I was like, I don't know that I've got that kind of like pain exploration in me today. But I was like, but what I do feel like I think I've got like a 5-minute, like low to mid, maybe tempo, low threshold for like longer. I think I can explore that today. And so I did that. So instead of doing like 5 or 6 1-minute uphills all out, I did 2 just over 5-minute intervals up the same hill, because it's a long ass hill by the house. Yeah. At tempo. And again, different pain, right? but longer. And as I just made that adjustment on the fly. Still had a great workout. Still was really happy. It was one of my best runs of the year, probably. But it was just what felt what I felt I could do that day from a pain and again enduring. I think we hear the word endurance all the time, and we hear long. But to endure, it can be anything. Right, you can endure. You can probably endure this podcast, probably sometimes, to endure from start to finish. But you can have to endure anything, and it's making it from the start to finish. So, I think that's another huge piece of recognition is being able to understand that and own that, and being able to just change, and then recognizing that there's so many different levels that we can explore that are all great and all purposeful.
This zone 2 thing, man, is just fascinating to me. It always has been, because it was sort of not my thing growing up. I mean, maybe it was, I don't even know, but I think that a lot of times that's we talk about it and everybody's like, zone 2, that's just easy or whatever. But I think that the mystery of endurance sports is obviously, woven into zone 2, right? And figuring out, it's sort of like really knowing where you can take it, but not, and understanding how to not take it too far. It's like that fine line, right? So to me, that's the simplest part but the most complicated part too of endurance sports. So how to mess around with that in all kinds of ways, and just sort of like get your head around, because you hear about how Tour de France riders they could stay in zone 2, or their zone 2 might be like 300 watts or whatever, and they can take that for 5 hours. But if they push it up and over a certain place there, it's going to be 5-10 minutes max or something like that.
That, man, see, to me, like I know your boy Pogačar, like to me, that's also one of the most impressive things about guys like that is their ability to do like the uncomfortability of like 5-6 hours at like a low to mid to high zone 2, and at the same time be able to also go like win the time trial. Like I have a hard time wrapping my brain around the like Swiss Army knife, both physiologically but also psychologically, of having a body that can be like the most efficient fat burning zone 2 machine on the planet, and also at the same time like hop on the TT for like 38 minutes and crush everyone. And the different levels of pain that both of those have in them, and then the ability to zone to it and then crush it for 5 minutes and come back and cruise it for a bit. Mm-hmm. It must be weird to be in a guy like that body that has like that ability to do so many. I mean, even Joseph, Vinigo, who was able to, went the past few years, like to be like that in the spectrum, but also to see how much zone 1 and zone 2 work specifically that they do, and how much focus and attention to detail and how discomforting it can be. I think is also a piece that a lot of athletes could probably unlock as well. Like you've been talking about, you've been focusing on here for the last few weeks.
Yeah. I'm not like, the reason I don't, I have a hard time with all the scientific information, because I just don't understand it sometimes. And I find that for me, it's just more interesting to kind of try to feel it and look inside and understand what things are doing in my body. And I think sometimes that what I was talking about earlier about how that slow sweat develops, and how it's just sort of that, it's almost like that boiling pot analogy, but it just sort of simmers, and to me, I think that there's something about that probably makes our blood vessels work better, or, we can get that blood flowing, that oxygen moving around a little bit better. I think that it's not like you just like jam your muscles all the time, but you're just kind of like percolating them all the time, and it's just making them more efficient. And to me, that's the interesting way to think about zone 2, is just kind of, I think a lot of time, I think I got kind of lucky because I never was using a power meter or anything like that, but I would always ride my trainer in such a way that it felt like that or whatever. And I think that just allowed me to, help build my ability to use oxygen or blood, in my muscles and stuff like that over time. And when you think about it like that, it becomes more interesting than just thinking you're on a trainer and just kind of like cruising along. But if you just sort of like ride that fine, it could be a couple different watts or just a little more effort maybe to get to a little bit more of an uncomfortable place. But knowing you can still hold it. I mean, it's almost like, that's why I think I like the sauna, because you're just sort of sitting there and your body's working because you're sweating, but you're not really exerting much. So I wonder if like things like that even help to, sort of train your system to handle that, those aerobic activities better.
Yeah. I don't know that I have the answer to that.
I don't either.
I think I know there's from, sauna stuff alone, like it raises blood plasma levels, which is great, like in the sauna. So there's definitely science there on a physiological standpoint. But I also think anything that we do that improves our ability to be resilient has a crossover effect. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's,
that's good.
5 minutes on the rower all out or an hour and 30 minutes on the bike at high zone 2 with the same cadence, or having a really tough conversation you really don't want to have with a coworker, or, as a boss, if you have to let someone go, or having a conversation with a family member or whatever it is, like the more opportunities you have, I think that's a huge crossover. I mean, some of the most resilient athletes of our time, I think, are only as resilient as they are because they've had also resilient life circumstances, or not resilient. They've had tough life circumstances and experiences that have forced them to become mentally resilient. Because again, it's not our bodies that give up; it's our minds. That's what gives up first. So again, like, no one wants to go and like, what? I think I'm going to sign up for a job that's really mentally, exhausting and challenging. It's going to make me so resilient. It's going to really impact my, triathlon performance in a positive way. Like no one wants that. Mm-hmm. Like we steer clear of it, right? That's why I think a lot of people find themselves lucky to have gone through such hardships in their life that have made them resilient, because that does transfer. Now, it doesn't transfer every time, right? We're human, we falter, we can fail, we can feel weak, we can lose confidence, we can be insecure, no matter what, right? And you hear some even pro athletes talk about this, but then when you get them all to click together and you combine the physical with the mental and emotional, and those all fire at once, which they don't all fire at once, but when they do, it's like your most unstoppable self, right? You're mentally and you're mentally and cognitively like aware and zoned in and dialed in. You're emotionally prepared and resilient, and you're physically ready and fit. Like that's the ultimate trifecta right there. Like, do not mess with that person. Do not race that person. They will probably win. But even if one of those is off, which again, a lot of times it is because life demands it, challenges us to keep through the three-headed monster. It's hard. But that's why I think like talk about the rowing or the thing. Like, there's a lot of ways to explore resilience and durability and pain and suffering or also restraint, and adhering to, a process that is going to be good in the long term. Like, it's all growth and it's all learning and it's all possibility. And again, like that's endurance sports just provides so many avenues and outlets. And that's why a lot of people would say that it positively impacts our lives so great. Like, you can't go out and like, what? I think I'm gonna go and play basketball today. I think I'm gonna keep it zone 2. I'm just gonna keep it zone 2 moderate, no matter what happens. You can't do that, right? Same thing. Like I'm gonna go play tennis. That's like me going to play tennis. Like, I'm not gonna really go for the ball. So I'm just gonna take what I can get. You don't do that. But endurance sports is like that. And, varying distances, varying disciplines, varying efforts, varying terrain. It is a never ending, possibility of exploration. And I think oftentimes like we just get we get such, dramatic tunnel vision into, 1 or 2, 3 to 15-hour events a whole year and lose sight of the days of opportunity that present to us that we just overlook because we feel like we have to say no, or it might interrupt the training cycle, or that we're not ready and prepared yet.
Maybe your line there about resilient jobs or tough jobs that make you more resilient. Maybe that's why I used to race better when I was in the news, because that job was like a continual piece of torture that made triathlon seem easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, I think, and I've talked about this openly on the podcast, like the further I get into my sobriety and away from like some of the harder things in my life, like sometimes I have to question how much softer I've become. And I think that's real. And I think that's why we have to openly and aggressively, take opportunities to continually test ourselves, because just like, your fitness, like if you don't use it, you lose it. I think that's the same with mental resilience and pushing ourselves in different directions. I think if you don't use it, you lose it. But it's so counterintuitive because the body's first instinct is to protect itself, right? It's not like, it's not like, oh yeah, let's do something really hard and resilient today, test ourselves and see if we can break. That's not like your body doesn't wake up craving that. But I think, allowing opportunities to flirt with that is important. Like I've been using a phrase a few times this week when talking about like high aerobic running. I said, for these runs, I want you to be in a zone where you're flirting with zone 3. You're just not kissing it. Like it's hard and it's you just be flirt with it, but don't be all the way there. And that's the same thing with like things you can do to improve or test your resilience, is to do some of these things that are spontaneous, right? Like, an Ironman on 3 days notice, right? It's like just to see what the fuck will happen. And I think that kind of fun and unpredictable isn't a word, unpredictability of that kind of stuff is actually quite freeing. And I think that we don't do that enough anymore because we try to calculate and predict and constrain and, perfect everything that we do with paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. And I'll gladly give up a few age group slots for not having to deal with that cesspool of a newsroom every day.
There you go.
You know what I mean? It's like
there you go.
It's almost like it forces you, because it can force that resilience, but sometimes it's not all that enjoyable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is that fine line between, like you're saying, staying kind of a little bit hardened, but not, so like, you're building scars all the time.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Anyway.
Well,
there we go.
We hope we didn't
we
hope we didn't scar anybody today. There's probably enough of that going around. As always, love you guys. We appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he's available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. If you need anything from me, I'm also available. Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man.
All right, dude. Check you tomorrow.
See ya.